to the information I'm about to read to you is taken from www.opposingchristianity.com. Year 0. The following article, written mostly by High Priest Don Danko, is very revealing regarding the true purpose of Christianity and how it directly ties into Jewish communism. It is important to know how the year 0 used with the communist takeover of a country was also used with the BC and the AD in history. History has been extensively corrupted by the Jews to conform to and to advance their agenda with enslaving the world. The BC stands for before Christ and AD, which means Domini. The term Anno Domini is medieval Latin, translated as in the year of the Lord, or in the year of our Lord. It is occasionally set out more fully as Anno Domini Nostri Iesu, or Jesu Christi, in the year of our Lord Jesus Christ. The supposed birth of the fictitious Nazarene was the year 0. The idea behind year 0 is that all culture and traditions within a society must be completely destroyed or discarded, and a new revolutionary culture, minute Jewish communism, must replace it, starting from scratch. All history of a nation or people before year 0 is deemed largely irrelevant, as it will really be purged and replaced from the ground up. In Cambodia, teachers, artists, and intellectuals were especially signed out and executed during the purges accompanying year 0. Some call it Marxism. I call it Judaism. Rabbi S. Wise, The American Bulletin, May 5, 1953. The communist soul is the soul of Judaism. Hence it follows, just as in the Russian Revolution, the trump of communism was the trump of Judaism. A Program for the Jews and Humanity, Rabbi Harry Wotton, page 143 to 144. Year 0, the doctrine of communism, Cambodia, which was called the Perfect Communism Revolution and was supported and put into power by the international Jews via their stronghold of Communist China. I'll direct the link in the description. It was the literal sweeping away of civilization, the destruction of the family unit. The family unit was to come to an end forever. The abolishment of all progress, music, money, hospitals, learning, books, and reading, and the total liquidation of the educated and professional classes through mass murder. Even love between humans was banned, with people being murdered for even smiling at each other in the slave camps. Even the word slave was banned. People were worked from 3 a.m. in the morning to 11 p.m. at night on a bowl of rice. If they failed to work, or if they didn't work fast enough because of extreme exhaustion, they were killed on the spot. They were forced to live in barns without walls between them and were not allowed to speak to each other. They were reduced to animals. The point of life was to work and die. The entire population was forced into this, and all of their culture was exterminated along with people and replaced by a slave society of Jewish communism. All of the books written in the great library of the capital were confiscated and destroyed by the communists. The cities were emptied, and 1/3 of the population was slaughtered. Any educated person was tortured to death after being arrested and taken to the infamous prisons and politically declared as a sub person. Their pictures were taken upon arrest, and the pictures of their murdered and tortured corpses were taken again after being killed. Their throats were slit and their bodies were mutilated and carved open by the communist executioners. The majority of towns were all leveled into the ground, and the population marched into the real life, Orwellian animal farm. Entire families were slaughtered. Women were even killed for the crime of being too beautiful. People were put to death for being able to read. The start of year 0 was the end of life in now communist Cambodia. This was the perfect and total implementation of Jewish communism. This is exactly what we saw with the programs of Jewish Christianity and Islam. Jewish Christianity also started the calendar at year 0 AD and did to entire societies what the communists did to Cambodia. The libraries were destroyed, the spiritual and thus educated classes were slaughtered and tortured, and cities destroyed, all knowledge destroyed, art destroyed, music banned, and even bathing was banned as pagan practice, with being able to read made a capital punishment by the church. The church commissars bragged they had wiped away the entire civilization and culture, and in its place was the slave society of primal communism, run by the party in the form of the church, year 0. As the communist advisor to Putin, Alexander Dugin started in an interview. I'll direct the link in the description. This fits well with the orthodox critique of Western Christianity. It is easy to see that the secularization of Western Christianity gives us liberalism. The secularization of the Orthodox religion gives us communism. Communism is the final perfection of Christianity. The world revolution which we will experience will be exclusively our affair and will rest in our hands. This revolution will tighten the Jewish domination over all other people. Gleb Piopel, Jew, February 8, 1919. Quote, the idea behind year 0 is that all cultural and traditions within society must be completely destroyed and discarded, and a new revolutionary culture, minute Jewish communism, must replace it, starting from scratch. All this history of a nation or people before year 0 is deemed largely irrelevant, as it will ideally be purged and replaced from the ground up. In Cambodia, teachers, artists, and intellectuals were especially singled out and executed during the purges accompanying year 0. End of quote. If you think it is over, just remember, communism is the Jewish Messianic movement created and directed by the elders of Zion and such as Rothschild. They are still around and still working relentlessly to turn the whole world into year 0, which is the final goal of Judaism. Zionism is Judaism. I'll direct the link in the description. Zionism is Judaism. In the time of the Messiah, and the Jews will exterminate. In the time of the Messiah, the Jews will exterminate all the people of the earth. Experts from the Elephant Walk cookbook by Longtime D. Monteiro and Catherine Newstand, copyright 1998. Quote, the country was deeply embroiled in civil war between the United States-backed government of Lon Nol, who had replaced King Norodom Sihanouk following a coup in 1970, and the communist insurgent revolutionaries, the Khmer Rouge, were thought to be close to victory. 3 weeks earlier, I had to fly to Phnom Penh to try to persuade members of Ken's family and my own to come to Taiwan, as my parents had done earlier that year, where they could wait out the end of the war in safety. Ken had already lost relatives in the fighting, and the capital was under intense fire the whole time I was there. I was able to get only 3 nephews and one of my younger sisters to leave Phnom Penh with me. My mother had come back to be with her mother, was too old to travel, refused to leave. Later in the afternoon of April 17th, Ken and I listened to a radio report announcing that Cambodia had fallen to the Khmer Rouge and that the rebel troops were already marching into Phnom Penh as victors. And then there was silence. Days went by, then weeks and months, with no other official report or word of what was happening, except for the rumors and unbelievable first-person accounts of people who had somehow managed to escape. Stories of savage cruelty and violence, of sanctioned executions and random murders at the hands of the Khmer Rouge. We heard of the immediate massive evacuation of millions from the capital over the course of a single day, but we could not believe it, nor could we imagine that the stories of resettlement into forced labor camps around the countryside part of the revolution's plan to return Cambodia to a wholly peasant society were true. Ken was trying to desperately to make contact with the new government, to get news of our families and to get permission to return home, where he hoped to offer his diplomatic skills. When we finally did get some official word, it came from the CIA, informing us that my older sister's husband, the chief of the Cambodian Navy, was believed to have died at the hands of the Khmer Rouge on that first day of the takeover. It was assumed that my other relatives who held similar government positions, including my oldest brother, who had been the Minister of Commerce, had also died. Suddenly, all possibility of returning to Cambodia vanished completely, and at the same time that Ken's job in Taiwan was becoming increasingly untenable. How could he be a representative of if there was no country to represent? For Ken, this meant the dramatic and ultimately end to his career. For the family, it meant that we were forced into exile. In the months stretching into years that followed, we eventually found asylum in France and then ended up in Béziers, a small Spanish-influenced town in the southwest, not far from the Mediterranean, where the surviving members of my family were reconvening. My two brothers-in-law and my brother were presumed dead, and there were continued to be no word of my mother or grandmother, my younger sister, or any of Ken's family. Of this, only my sister survived, as our savings dwindled and it became unmistakably clear that there would be no future diplomatic position for Ken. We faced a financial crisis. End of quote. With the fracture, quote, with the fracturing of the Khmer society in recent years, like many of its cultural treasures, the finest of the traditional cuisine of Cambodia, both simple and elaborate, stands to be lost forever. Most of the people who care deeply about food have been killed, have fled to the country, or have died of old age. At this point, I wouldn't know where to begin to look for the old women who used to guard the secrets of the best spices for curry, preserving them for future generations to enjoy. I assume that these women are all gone. End of quote. Year zero, the Civil War. And, quote. In April 1975, the communists finally took control of the country. Under Pol Pot and a cadre of close advisors, the new revolutionary government set about to create overnight a quasi-Marxist Leninist peasant society by returning Cambodia to what they called Year Zero. A society, as one historian characterized it, without money, markets, formal education, Buddhism, books, private property, and freedom of movement, and needless to say, without cuisine. The impact of this era at the time of the killing fields can hardly be overstated. Less than 4 years later, in 1979, the Khmer Rouge were driven out by the Vietnamese forces in retaliation of their attack on Vietnam. But their policies and practices had resulted in the deaths of more than 1 million Cambodians from starvation, overwork, disease, and torture. Decades later, the country still struggled to rebuild. Highly recommended the movie The Killing Fields, 1948. I'll direct link in the description. Quote: A photographer is trapped in Cambodia during Tyrant Pol Pot's bloody Year Zero cleansing campaign, which claimed the lives of 2 million undesirable stars. Sam Waterston, Heng Se Nor, John Malkovich. I'll direct the link in the description of the Wikipedia where this information about Anno Domini was at. Thank you for listening, and hail Satan.